I've been the ice, I've been the flame, I've been the ball, I've been the chain. So I'm not a factor. Oh, hello everybody. So I wanted to come on here and do a lyrical and just deep analysis of the song Shapeshifter by Lorde. I'm really, well, I'm a writer. I've gotten my education in playwriting, in acting, in English literature and poetry. I'm very invested in understanding the way things are written. Every word is a choice. Every tone of phrase is a phrase that I would presume matters. And so I figured, why not with this new album, we could go through some of the tracks and just explore some of that. So for today, I have chosen the song Shapeshifter because it was the first song that I heard that I hadn't, obviously it wasn't a pre-single that really captivated me. In fact, it was the chorus that really got me. But as I've had this song for now, I think a week. Really? Has it really only been a week? Wow. But it's really come into... I've just listened to it a lot. So I just decided that that would be a great start for this series that I'm going to bring to the channel that I could just break down, or really bring back to the channel. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. But let's start with the first verse. Chewing gum, I know, don't hide the sour taste that's in my throat. But the voice in my head says, do you have the stones? When you get close enough, I'll let down my braids and you'll climb up. In my room, we can do anything you want. So right off the bat, especially, and also I think it is really important to recognize sound and how things are said, especially when you're dealing with Lorde. And for me, especially just how she decides to sing the phrase, chewing gum, I know, don't hide the sour taste that's in my throat. It feels like it's rumination. It feels like it's something that she's mulling or chewing over in her head. Now, I know for this album, we are going to be getting a little woo-woo. I think it's a complete possibility of over-analysis. But I just thought that, sometimes this can have beneficial purposes in getting to know a song. But it isn't necessary to enjoy it. But the main thing that I wanted to say was that she talked about not wanting to Laura talked a lot about wanting to make things simple and just say them as they are and not overthink, right? Like, that's a huge theme on this album. So, if you're ever hearing an analysis and you're like, but in this interview, she just said like, oh, well, I was chewing gum, so I just started saying chewing gum. Like, I'm aware of that. I think that's really dope. But we're just gonna kind of dig in anyways and mine for some gold. Not that two things can't be true at once either, but I just wanted to get that out there. But okay, the first thing that really caught my eye that I wanted to talk about was that chewing gum, right? So for me, I think there's symbolism in that, of sort of having it be something that's chewed over, that's repetitive, and the like sort of internal struggle and autonomy that she has tied to it. Like, does she even get to decide what she feels or what she wants to hide? Like, does she have that autonomy? Why does she feel like she can't fully get a grasp or control over it? I also, like, just because I know masculinity and femininity are really another large theme on this album, and she's mentioned how being in touch with her masculinity has only brought her closer to her femininity. So I think that also, like, within that realm of rumination, something that I also thought of was just like, so it's a very masculine tendency to want to hide emotion, or, when it comes to chewing gum, like if something's really sour, you might sort of want to man up and not necessarily show that. So she's in her head going like, chewing gum, I know, don't hide the sour taste that's in my throat. So she's sort of trying to rebel against maybe that tendency she has to want to prove that she can handle something by saying, no, if it's sour, I'm not going to hide it. It's fucking sour. But then at the same time, that masculine voice within her comes back in and sort of goes, well, do you even have the stones? Like, are you sure that this is you choosing not to hide it, or you couldn't hide it because you're not strong enough? Which actually kind of an interesting parallel to the song Not Strong Enough by Boy Genius. But nonetheless, like, so those are the two different ideas that were sort of popping in my head. When you get close enough, I'll let down my braids and you'll climb up. In my room, we can do anything you want. So I think, like, obviously, like, what's happening is like an intertextual illusion. So that's just a storied theme that relates to another iconic piece of text. So for this one, it's Rapunzel. It's using imagery that pulls you into that mindset to understand the parallel that's being made here. And so along with that, you know, the narrator is sort of walking us through the pivotal moment when someone finally gets close enough to them, to the point where they feel close enough to sort of let their hair down, right, and let the person climb up. But, you know, at first glance, this seems like a switch of the narrative because of that intertextual connection. But when you think about it, it relates back, because within those first lines of her talking about both not wanting to reject the sour taste in her throat and her mind questioning if she has the stones to hide that sour taste, even if she wanted to or not, it's a parallel to finally not rejecting a person and letting her hair down. It's the same conversation. Everyone that I've slept with, all the pairs of hands, I'm reckless. If I'm fine without it, why can't I stop? Everything I want, speeding up my pulse. I don't sleep, don't dream at all. Give them nothing personal, so I'm not affected. I love that pre-chorus. If I just sum up the song, I'd say it's about dualities. But within this short stanza, what we're given is the narrator expressing her discontent with the recognition that if in casual conversation she's cool without hooking up, why is she unable to stop that? And yes, this does seem very straightforward, but the honesty also feels like she's speaking to is the dualities of her masculinity and her femininity, and those tendencies that are tied into both in relation to desire, sexual intimacy, and rejection. You know, there's a tone of confession here. It's not necessarily shame as much as it is observation. You know, I think that this album isn't very shameful. I think it's just an observation, and it's saying, take who I am, what I'm offering, do with it what you will, but I'm not being prescriptive with this, or at least Lorde's really trying not to be. And I really respect her for that. You know, she acknowledges that this disconnect between desire and emotional outcomes. Everything I want, speeding up my pulse. I don't sleep, don't dream at all. Give them nothing personal, so I'm not affected. That instantly makes me think of a detachment of self-preservation. You know, it's noting like a sort of paradox, if you will. She wants but won't give. She desires but denies herself of dreaming. You know, it's a very intimate and relatable feeling that I think she's speaking to. When relating to the vulnerability of sex and wanting to find a way within that environment to feel like you haven't given yourself over completely to a person, because it's so vulnerable. You know, you sort of want to have some form of shell that you still feel like might just belong to you. And you know, so when the author writes, I don't sleep, don't dream at all, what I thought of was how this can be this could be a complete shot in the dark, because, you know, yeah, all this is. But, you know, what that made me think of is it's the idea that she doesn't dream or fantasize about the person that she's brought to bed, and able to not trick herself into falling in love or just feeling deeper. But also she doesn't, even after sex, sleep next to the person, right? I don't sleep, I don't dream. You know, it's very interactional. They're there to get the job done, and then it's bye-bye, right? And that's so real, especially in queer settings, which, you know, Lorde's around a lot of. You know, I think she's also offering that she herself is queer, but, you know, I'm not going to put that on her, but I know that a lot of her public-facing friends anyways are. So, you know, if you're in that community, then you'll understand that intimacy is something that actually has to be fought for, because on first glance, sex can become very transactional, or at least we often try our best to make it feel that way, even though it never really is. Now we get to the chorus, which I love. I've been the ice, I've been the flame, I've been the prize, the ball, the chain. I've been the dice, the magic 8, so I'm not affected. I've been the siren, been the saint. I've been the fruit that leaves a stain. I've been up on the pedestal, but tonight, I just want to fall. I love that. Oh, it's just delectable. So I instantly was brought to like sort of like a catalog of identities, both imposed as well as self-chosen, binary opposites, so like ice and flame, siren, saint, pedestal, fall. You know, these are all things that you've both chosen for yourself and people have put onto you. You know, it's like, you know, I've been cold, I've lived for my desires, I've been the person people want me to be, I've been the person holding you back, or who you feel is holding you back. I've been the random chance as well as the soothsayer. And ultimately she's saying she's not affected, which once again, she is actually affected, But these are the reasons why she thinks she isn't, and the reasons why she holds people back for as long as she can before letting down her braids, if we're pulling it back to that Rapunzel image. And she ends it with, tonight, I just want to fall. Yeah, tonight, I just want to fall. And it's because in this moment, all she wants to do is let it all go, because, you know, it's very exhausting to feel like you're shapeshifting constantly. But shapeshifting isn't as much of a superpower as it is a condition. It's not something that we can control as people, right? You know, you can walk into a room and hold yourself in one way, and then when you leave the room, your shoulders are down or they're up. You know, it's like we're shapeshifting constantly. And once you recognize that you're doing that, or you feel like you're doing it in more ways than maybe you'd like, or more ways than you feel other people around you are, you can want it all to just collapse around you, which is both freeing and ultimately impossible because humans are shapeshifters. I think I need to get a little more light. I honestly don't think that did anything. It might have even made it worse, but that's okay. Let us continue. Mirror, mirror on his shirt, I see a hot mess in an antique skirt, but the voice in my head says, don't let him leave alone. Then, you know, back again, you know, oh my God, New York City is crazy. But then once again, we're brought to another intertextual illusion, that being Snow White with the mirror, mirror. She's back, and this time she's living through the flames. She's recognizing that there's a man who wouldn't be the greatest partner, but you know what? They can't leave alone. I can't let them leave alone because they're hot and I want to do something with that. It's recognizing a person isn't capable for love, but may be capable to give you the night that you so desire. I become her again. Visions of a teenage innocence. How'd I shapeshift like that? To me, this reads as a moment directly after sleeping with someone. She's brought back to a version of herself that would never have imagined that this is the person she'd become. And she's asking herself, how'd she shapeshift? She also might have truly become that version, right? So it's like she lived with the flame and the desire of the man with the hot antique skirt, but once that moment is over, she feels recoiled, or she recoils from them, and she's brought back to a more timid or insular version of herself, the narrator I'm speaking about, than moments before. How did I shapeshift like that? How did I, in an instant, become a new version? And I think ultimately also this song is struggling with, will I ever love, first of all, who is me if I am a shapeshifter? And if who I am is a shapeshifter, and I come to terms with that, how could somebody else? And so this is really where I was saying that, like, this is highlighting that shape-shifting isn't a superpower. It truly is a condition. It's something imposed. Everyone that I've slept with, all the metal I've messaged, if I'm fine without it, why can't I stop? Everything I want, speeding up my pulse. I don't sleep, don't dream at all. Give him nothing personal, so I'm not affected. So Lorde has had an on and off again, like, relationship with technology from solar power to now. But the first thing that I thought about was when she says, like, all the metal I've messaged. I think it's just a roundabout way of saying all the people that she's texted through this metal device, through iPhones. But it also sort of like contrasts with the very human act of seeking connection and physical touch. And so I think it's just like underscoring the coldness of metal and how that underscores how mechanical or impersonal the exchange has become, even though the act itself of physical intimacy is flesh and blood. She then once again reiterates that she feels trapped in the cycle of claiming to not want something, but then cannot seem to stop herself from reaching for what she wants. Another very human act. Once again, I really think that this song and this album is an observation. It isn't to be critical. If you or me or I decide to be critical or judge however we judge, and judging is positive and negative, it's just thoughts. She herself is trying to exist outside of that, which once again, I think if she's recognizing she can't even do either. But that's the human condition, and so I love this album for that. I'll kick you out and pull you in, shapeshifter. Swear that you were just a friend, shapeshifter. And when it's all over again, say I'm not affected, Then finally, she admits the ugliest truth of all. While she's questioning all of her shapeshifting tendencies and coming to terms and cycling through the people she is, the person that she is, she's caught someone in her crosshairs. And right or wrong, that's a part of the reality of growth. It's making ugly mistakes and knowing that you might be the reason for the cause behind someone else's hurt. And it might not be your intention, but it's still going on. And then what does it mean if you recognize it isn't your intention, but you're also wrapped up in yourself? And so you're like, but I'm also not going to solve this for you. I think it's very real, like on your journey or like on my journey too. I remember the first time that I felt somebody didn't want like a form of intimacy with me, emotional. And I was very confused. And then, I don't know, sometime later, all of a sudden I was the person not wanting a form of like intimacy with another, and I was sort of like, well, yeah, I just don't want that. And I caught myself because I was like, oh my God, but I remember being this other person or me, you know, a year ago and being so in pain with the fact that somebody else didn't want me how I did. But that's really not this song. But I'm just saying it's really important to remember that the same thing that hurt us, it's never impossible to then have that thing hurt somebody else. And I think that Lorde is really hitting on that. I'm not affected, but tonight I just want to fall. You know, and I think just her once again recognizing that tonight she just doesn't want to think about any of this. She doesn't want to shapeshift at all. She wants to be alone, even perhaps, or reconnect with her core. You know, get to that clear center of hers. And you know, may I just say that some of the or the ahs, they remind me of a siren call, which I thought was really funny because she points to that being a version of herself in this. So I thought that was really interesting. You know, it's sort of like the siren call is like the desire of doom. It's a mythological trap. It's another intertextual image. And then ending on I just want to fall is both a surrender and a plea. She's tired of performance, but knows that life is a stage. Well, okay, that was my analysis of Lorde's Shapeshifter. If you guys like this video and you want other lyrical analysis and breakdowns, please type them away. In fact, I'd love to do songs that I don't even know at all. To just read them as poetry, throw out all my thoughts, then listen to the song and return to it and then sort of break it down to you guys in that fashion, I think would be really exciting. But okay, I am going to enjoy the rest of my Saturday and get to editing, but just subscribe. I gotta tell myself that. Anyways, okay, bye-bye.